They're the most famous villainous duo in all of comics, but if you've never read a Joker or a Harley Quinn book before, then this is the video for you. Woof woof! Hey guys, it's me Marcus, aka the Mad Dog, and we're back with another video. If you're looking specifically for a Joker book, my biggest recommendation to you would be Batman the Killing Joke. This was written by Alan Moore, illustrated by Brian Boland, and it's all contained in just one issue. It doesn't require you to know a lot about the character, except for the fact that he really annoys Batman and he's in and out of Arkham Asylum. And the great thing about this is, even though it feels like it's set apart from the rest of continuity and it doesn't require you to know what happened before, it still has lasting consequences, specifically when it comes to Barbara Gordon. I'd always known who the Joker was, but this was the book that made me explore who he is a little bit more. I read this very early on in my comic reading journey, I've come back to it multiple times over the years, and I definitely think that for a quick pit stop on who the Joker is, there's probably nothing better than this because it's fantastically written, the ending's still got people talking about it nearly 40 years later, the art's phenomenal whether you go for the original colouring or the remaster, and I just don't think that there's a lot better than this. But at the same time, please keep watching this video. But if you like the sound of that and a grounded, realistic take on these characters, but you specifically want that for Harley Quinn, there's probably nothing better that I can recommend than Harleen. This was written and illustrated by Stepan Sajic, which is a name that I'm still not sure if I'm pronouncing correctly, and I only recently read this last year, but before I picked up this book, I thought Harley Quinn was one of those oversaturated characters. I put her in a similar class as someone like Deadpool, but this opened my eyes into just how interesting she can be and the psychological elements that are at play. Sure, yes, it doesn't give you a lot of time with her as Harley Quinn, but at the same time you get everything that you need to know. From her being this young psychiatrist who's entering Arkham Asylum, to her first meetings with the Joker and all the psychological mind games that are going on there, leading up to the moment that makes her snap and gets you to that point of no return. It was phenomenal because a lot of books try to just look at the quirky, funny side about this character and especially this relationship, but this was the book that reminded you that no, there is a lot of weird shit that's going on here, but at the same time, he draws a hot Joker, so I kind of understand. I loved this book when I reviewed it, it's a very quick read, and if you're effectively looking for a prequel to Harley Quinn, then this is definitely the one. But you might not want a Joker origin story, especially if that origin story might not even be true, in which case I definitely recommend the aptly named Joker by Brian Azzarello. This was one of the first books that I ever reviewed on this channel, and it really stuck with me. You see Joker from the perspective of one of his underlings who are doing all the dirty work for him, so you never really get to go inside the mind of the character, but you still get a lot of time just with him. You're just constantly on edge, you don't know whether he's going to kill Frost or give him a hug, and it just puts you in that mindset of what it must be if you lived in the world of this character. He is also set outside of continuity, so you don't have to worry about picking up any other titles to understand what's going on. The art that has this painted, realistic look to it is just phenomenal, and it's very rare to see something like that. So this does give you a very real world approach. There's not too much Batman in it, but he's still there, and you'll also just get to see him interact with other figures like Two-Face and the Penguin. So yeah, this book is great if you already know a little bit about this character and you just want to spend more time in his world. And in a similar way, you might want a Harley Quinn book that doesn't waste your time with an origin story, in which case I would recommend the fantastic run that was done by Jimmy Palmiotti and Amanda Conner. Here specifically, I'm recommending the New 52 run, but also the run from Rebirth. They did years on this character, so it's not the case that you're just going to spend 3 issues and then wonder what's next. You get to see Harley Quinn going at it on her own. She was stepping out of the shadow of being Joker's girlfriend and moving into this more anti-hero role. She's still zany and wacky, and I wouldn't turn me back on her, but this was the first time when I was starting to like her as her own character and not just Joker's girlfriend. So if you do have the time for a run that went on for years and really managed to redefine this character, I can't think of a better standalone Harley Quinn title than this one. But if you're wanting something for the Joker, I would definitely recommend Death of the Family. I'm a bit hesitant to recommend Death in the Family, I don't really think that's a great jumping on point, but it is a great story, I have to give it that. But Death of the Family was a mini crossover event that happened between the Batman books during the New 52, which yep, is still my jam. He cut off his face at the beginning of Detective Comics, but that's not something that's really important here, although it does make him have a much more menacing look to him, so if you're a bit squeamish then do not read this. But if you did want a Joker story where you can see the ramifications of his actions affecting the other characters, then I do think this is pretty great. And in particular, the Batman series that was being written by Scott Snyder and illustrated by Greg Capullo was some top tier writing. I love this, and over the years you probably can find other crossover events events that have centered around the Joker, like you've got the War of Jokes and Riddles, and Joker War, but admittedly I haven't caught up on them. However, when I was going to comic shops and picking up single issues, I knew that I couldn't miss a single issue of Death of the Family. Yes, it does require you to know a little bit about the Bat family, but I've already done a video if you're unsure of any of the members, so you've got no excuse if you want to pick this up. However, a phenomenal run that often seems to get overlooked is Gotham City Sirens. Now, I said that the New 52 run felt like the first time she was becoming her own independent character, but I do think that this was the precursor to it. This saw her team up with Catwoman and Poison Ivy, and admittedly she was teaming up quite a lot with Poison Ivy, if you get what I'm saying. It was written by Paul Dini, the guy who created Harley Quinn, so of course he's got a good understanding of this character. So if you liked who Harley Quinn was when she was with the Joker, but you want to see her interact with other characters, and not just living in his shadow and going on these missions where she really gets to expand who she is, and use her unique skill set in situations that you wouldn't really place her in, then this is a really good, short-ish run that is collected in one omnibus where they changed the name to Harley Quinn and the Gotham City Sirens. You know, you've got to make people buy it somehow. But this is a very underrated run that a lot of people have overlooked. It is fortunately getting a reprint, and you can already pre-order it from the channel's sponsor, Organic Price Books. They've got great packaging, fast shipping, and amazing customer services, and if you use code WOOFWOOF, you'll get $2 off your order. And if you're ordering 3 or more books and you want them to be delivered together, make sure you use code WOOFWOOF, ship it together for 5% off your entire order. Don't worry, you can just copy and paste them from the description down below, and you can use these codes as many times as you like. But maybe you're looking for more of the relationship between Batman and the Joker, in which case I would definitely recommend The Man Who Laughs. This is written by Ed Brubaker, so one of my favourite writers, so I am a little bit biased, but this takes it back to when Joker first appeared on the scene, and it is technically set inside continuity, so you can continue reading other series after this. And you're not going to get an origin story about the Joker, but you are going to get one about him and Batman. So if you did like the recent Batman movie, it has got a younger Bruce Wayne that stepped into this role. He still makes a few mistakes, and then you've got the Joker coming on the scene, and he realizes that he really needs to step it up a level. I only recently read this, so it is fresh in my mind. I absolutely love the art that was done by Doug Monkey, another name that I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing correctly, but it's another short series that won't take you too much time to read, but it will keep you entertained throughout. And on the flip side, if you want a story that takes it back to the beginning, but you want that for Harley Quinn, then I would definitely recommend Batman Mad Love. This was a story that was actually inspired by Batman the Animated Series, which we're going to get into on this list. But when you think about Batman and his history and when those characters first debuted, Harley Quinn is actually one of the youngest in comparison. And when I do me where to start, I often don't recommend the very first appearance of a character because I feel like times changed since then. But with this being something that came out in the 90s, it's still very easily accessible. The art style is inspired by the TV show, so if maybe you knew this character when you were growing up and you haven't read anything since then, this might be the best option for you. And trust me, if you do jump into this, you'll probably read this in the same voices that you heard in the show. Another one for the Clown Prince of Crime, and I'm going to go with Joker Killer Smile. If you like the sound of Harleen because it reminded you a little bit of Silence of the Lambs, but you prefer the Hannibal Lecter films where he didn't fancy the person that was interviewing him, then this would be the one for you. It's written by Jeff Lemire and it's illustrated by Andrea Sorrentino, so you've got the same creative team that did Green Arrow, and also Old Man Logan and Gideon Falls, so this is a really established creative team that wanted to tackle the Joker. The art is great and it's published under Black Label, so it is set outside of continuity, and you've got this psychiatrist that is trying to be the first person that will break Joker and won't succumb to his mind games. But slowly as it begins to unravel, it becomes this cat and mouse thing, and you can't tell if the psychiatrist is going crazy or the Joker's actually messing with him. It really put you in the mindset of what it must feel like if your job revolves around this person but at the same time you're not trying to sleep with them. It's another really short recent read as well, so it's not going to take up too much of your time, and I think this is great if you're looking for something with a bit more of a psychological thriller aspect. I always try and recommend teen books when I do a where to start as a different option if you want to get to know the character and the result of being in that dynamic. With Joker, I haven't read a lot of teen books that do feature him, but there are a heavy amount that feature Harley Quinn. The first that I'm going to be recommending is the Suicide Squad run from the New 52. And admittedly, if you pick up any Suicide Squad run that came out after that time, Harley Quinn's probably going to be in it. You also have the recent miniseries that came out in the Prestige format that was written by Tom Taylor, and for as much hate as the New 52 might get, I do feel like this was when they began to reinvent Harley Quinn. I gave a lot of respect to Amanda Conner and Jimmy Palmiotti about that, but I also think that this title was just as important. And the first story arc in particular is more of a cat and mouse chase that features features hit, and then she does join the team full time. So they were just kind of using her on the front cover to sell a couple of issues, but you know, it worked. And this is something that'll switch it up for you if you are just used to her being a villain or maybe being the sidekick to the Joker. I'm just going to carry on with the crossovers because next up I've got Harley Quinn and Power Girl. I'm in the minority here, but I only picked this up because of how much I like Power Girl. I've already done a video talking about who she is in case you're wondering, and you had this amazing dynamic between somebody who's righteous and is always doing the superhero thing, and then Harley Quinn. There's also a lot of chemistry that goes on between them that I do not think I am ready to look at on Rule 34. And this was only 6 issues long, and it was during that time where Harley Quinn was reinventing herself. There's also some really wacky sci-fi aspects that you don't think would work on this title, but for some reason it just does. And this is just one of those books that's really fun. You don't think it would work when you hear the title, but then you remember that Jimmy Palmiotti and Amanda Conner made one of the best Power Girl runs of all time. Another one by the same creative team, I'm gonna go with Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey. Nope, not the movie, but this was an original graphic novel that was released at the same time. So if you're somebody or you know somebody that did like that film, then I definitely think that this would be the best option. It's a really short, fun read by 2 creators that really understand this character. It's also got a great sense of humour, which I think is pivotal when you're writing Harley Quinn, and she also takes up a bit of a leadership role, so it's just great seeing the evolution of the character. The last crossover that I'm going to recommend, even though there's probably been another 8 that have been solicited in the time since I started filming this, is going to be Harley's Little Black Book. This is a 6-issue miniseries that was collected in the omnibuses, so make sure that you don't double dip if you've already got these. And if you have already got these, thank you for watching this video. I don't think you needed to, but cheers. But this was pretty much just a who's who of DC characters crossing paths with Harley Quinn. So you get to see it interact with Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Zatanna, and it's not really about the plot. You're not going to learn a lot about the character, but you're all going to have a good time whilst you read this. Again, it is Palmiotti and Amanda Conner. I promise I'm not sponsored by them. It's just that they are probably the creative team, beyond Paul Dini, that has done the most for Harley Quinn. In saying that, maybe you want to see a different side to the Joker, in which case I would definitely recommend Batman White Knight. This has had a few sequels and it does seem like it's becoming its own universe, but the concept of this is what if Joker was reformed, and beyond that started to try and become a force for good in Gotham City. What's great about this is it explores the balance between Batman and Joker. All of a sudden, when he doesn't have that foe to go up against, what would it do to the Dark Knight? And all the while you're wondering if this is a permanent change or it's just another scheme from Joker. It's got fantastic art by Sean Murphy, who also does the scripting of this, so it's just great that you've got this one guy leading the charge. And like I said, it's had spin-offs and sequels, so if you wanted a Joker story that doesn't require you to know a lot about what's going on in the comics, but you can still jump in and out of it as and when you please, this would definitely be the one for you. In me where to start, so don't always just try to recommend books, because I am going to recommend both Batman the Animated Series and also the Harley Quinn Animated Series. A lot of people who are reading comics today started because they watched a TV show or they saw a movie and they just wanted to know more about that character. Both of these are great, especially if you have never read a comic before and you just want to ease your way into it. The Harley Quinn show is more for an adult audience, and you shouldn't really expect everything that happens in there to translate into comics, but Batman the Animated Series is one of the best TV shows of all time. Beyond just the Joker stuff, you've got the Mr. Freeze arc, you've got Two-Face, and you do also have the introduction of Harley Quinn. And my honourable mention before my final pick, I'm just going to go with absolutely everything that I haven't mentioned but would get you into comics. That's the point of my Where to Start series. These are just my recommendations that I think would be great depending on your situation. But at the same time, the Joker's old enough to have lived through World War II, so there's countless stories that I haven't recommended here just because I haven't read them. But at the same time, if it would work for you, then don't worry if it's not on this list. You should still be reading that book. And my final pick is going to be the Joker series that started in 2021. James Tynion wrote a lot of the issues of this, so it's great seeing that he gets his turn at Joker because he wasn't really included in his Batman run. And there was also a Harley Quinn series that came out at the same time that I haven't picked up just yet. And it does also seem like DC are teasing some things that means that this series might not go on for much longer. But the Joker series in particular is great because it's one of the only titles that is mostly just following him. But if you did want to jump into something that's current and ongoing, then don't worry, you can pick up the recent Joker series. I'm hoping it pans out to be a good run that I can recommend to everybody because I have only read the first couple of issues, but still you will learn a lot about this character, even if it is the fact that you should never really know who the Joker is. But that's the video, hopefully you enjoyed it. If you could share this where you can, that would do me a massive favour. But until next time, just make sure that you stay safe and stay mad, all you dogs. Woof woof! See you at the next video.